A nation defined for decades by its refusal to wage war is now preparing to sell its high-tech weaponry on the global market. Since 1947, Japan has been bound by Article 9 of its constitution, a legal pledge that renounced war as a sovereign right. For nearly 80 years, the country committed to settling international disputes without the use or threat of force. This commitment included a strict ban on exporting lethal military hardware. Despite possessing world-class engineering, Japan's defense factories were restricted to domestic needs, keeping their production lines closed to foreign buyers. For generations, this stance became the pillar of Japan's modern identity. The world knew Japan not as a military power, but as a nation dedicated to absolute defensive pacifism. That identity is being tested as China rapidly expands its military reach across the Indo-Pacific, using unprovoked naval maneuvers in contested waters. Pressure is mounting across multiple fronts, from the deadly border clashes in Galwan to the persistent harassment of Philippine vessels in the South China Sea. At the same time, the security landscape is shifting. Traditional allies like the United States are increasingly preoccupied with internal political divisions and high-intensity conflicts in the Middle East and Ukraine. This shift has led to a new consensus in Tokyo. Pacifism requires a stable environment to survive, and in a rapidly changing Asia, no country can guarantee its own security alone. Responding to these threats, the Japanese government is officially scrapping the restrictions that have long prevented the export of arms. The government has moved beyond selling simple rescue and surveillance equipment. They are now authorizing the export of finished, lethal weapons to 17 allied nations. Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi maintains that these changes are necessary to strengthen the deterrence of Japan's partners. She argues that in a more dangerous region, shared defense technology is the only way to maintain the peace. The move has triggered a sharp domestic backlash. Thousands have gathered to protest, viewing the policy as an unconstitutional betrayal of the country's peace-loving principles. The government is pushing forward despite the public outcry, calculating that national survival against rising regional threats outweighs the political cost of breaking with tradition. This pivot is backed by a massive financial surge. Japan's defense budget is on track to hit 2% of its GDP, a figure that represents over $66 billion in annual spending. That capital is fueling the development of high-end weaponry, such as naval railguns. These systems, built through public-private partnerships, are designed to fire multiple projectiles at speeds capable of causing heavy damage to enemy fleets. These systems are already finding buyers. Japan recently finalized a $10 billion deal to provide the Royal Australian Navy with 11 advanced frigates. This isn't just about sales, it's about presence. For the first time, Japanese Self-Defense Force soldiers are participating in U.S.-Philippines war games as active combatants rather than observers. After 8 decades of remaining on the sidelines, Japan is now taking a direct role in the military architecture of the Indo-Pacific. For nations looking to counter China's influence, Japan offers a new, reliable alternative. Tokyo provides high-tier technology to countries that may be wary of shifting U.S. politics or the quality of Russian military hardware. India has been particularly receptive to this shift. New Delhi sees Japanese defense technology as a vital tool for securing their own borders. Joint projects are already underway, including the co-development of the Unicorn communication system for the Indian Navy. This growing defense relationship signals a strategic alignment between New Delhi and Tokyo that aims to provide a counterweight to Chinese dominance in the coming years. The reaction from Beijing has been swift and severe. Chinese officials have warned of a reckless militarization, claiming that Tokyo is essentially restarting a war machine. This reaction is rooted in the history of the Second World War, when Japan invaded and colonized vast portions of the continent, leaving behind a legacy of deep historical trauma. These anxieties are shared by other neighbors. Nations like South Korea and the Philippines still bear the scars of Japanese occupation and the memory of colonial rule. The Chinese government frequently highlights this history in its education and social media, using anti-Japanese sentiment to build domestic support and distract from its own modern military expansion. It leads to a difficult reality for Tokyo. To maintain its peaceful way of life and the spirit of its constitution at home, Japan has decided that it must now build and export the very weapons it once swore to abandon forever.